I'm holding in my hand a coin given to me by a friend. His name is Staff Sergeant Don Jenkins from the small town of Quality, Kentucky. He served Company A, 2nd Battalion, 39th Infantry Regiment, 9th Infantry Division in Vietnam. This is not just any coin. It's a challenge coin which bears the insignia of the Congressional Medal of Honor. The Medal of Honor is the United States' highest award for military valor in action. Etched within are the very values that each recipient displayed in the moments that mattered: bravery, courage, sacrifice, integrity, a deep love of country, and a desire to always do what is right. Behind every medal is a story. Each story encapsulates the heart of the American soldier. Let me share the story of my friend. The Congressional Medal of Honor citation reads, "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity in action at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty, Sergeant Jenkins, then PFC, Company A, distinguished himself while serving as a machine gunner on a reconnaissance mission. When his company came under heavy crossfire from an enemy complex, Sergeant Jenkins unhesitatingly maneuvered forward to a perilously exposed position and began placing suppressive fire on the enemy. When his own machine gun jammed, he immediately obtained a rifle and continued to fire into the enemy bunkers until his machine gun was made operative by his assistant. He exposed himself to an extremely heavy fire when he repeatedly both ran and crawled across open terrain to obtain resupplies of ammunition until he had exhausted all that was available for his machine gun. Displaying tremendous presence of mind, he then armed himself with 2 anti-tank weapons and by himself maneuvered through the hostile fire to within 20 meters of an enemy bunker to destroy that position. After moving back to the friendly defensive perimeter long enough to secure yet another weapon, a grenade launcher, Sergeant Jenkins moved forward to a position providing no protection and resumed placing accurate fire on the enemy until his ammunition was again exhausted. During this time, he was seriously wounded by shrapnel. Undaunted and displaying great courage, he moved forward 100 meters to aid a friendly element that was pinned down only a few meters from the enemy. This he did with complete disregard for his own wounds, and despite having been advised that several previous rescue attempts had failed at the cost of the life of one and the wounding of others. Ignoring the continued intense fire and his painful wounds, and hindered by darkness, he made 3 trips to the beleaguered unit, each time pulling a wounded comrade back to safety. Sergeant Jenkins' extraordinary valor, dedication, and indomitable spirit inspired his fellow soldiers to repulse the determined enemy attack and ultimately to defeat the larger force. Sergeant Jenkins' risk of life reflect great credit upon himself, his unit, and the United States Army. Today, all across this nation, Americans will visit cemeteries to place flowers and American flags on the graves of soldiers who were taken from their families and loved ones way too soon. There will be parades, memorial services, speeches, all to remember and mourn our soldiers who have died in the line of duty. Fathers, mothers, sons and daughters, brothers, sisters, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, and friends will entertain 1,000 memories as they pass through their minds while grieving over the graves. As Americans, we join them, for each of us has made a commitment that we will never forget. We will never forget the sacrifice made for our freedoms and privileges that each American enjoys every day. We will never forget that lives were lost so we could enjoy life, choose our own path, speak freely, worship God without interference, and live in peace. For that to happen, a price has been paid. Freedom isn't free. It was our Lord Jesus Christ who said, "Greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for his friends." These war fighters came from every corner and direction of our nation. They come from the east, west, north, and south. They grew up in large cities, small villages, and out in the country. Men and women of all races with different life interests and various goals for their future. And a lot of them had very little in common except for one thing. They were American soldiers. They came into the military not as grown adults, but young men and women, many of which had just recently graduated from high school. Now they're no longer deciding who to ask to the prom, or whether I can use my parents' car to drive around, or what can me and my friends get into this weekend. Now they are trained to handle weapons, shoot guns, fight battles, trust other soldiers with their life, carry heavy gear, stay awake for days, and respond to the most stressful and surreal environment known to humanity. The soldier hears things no one should ever have to hear, sees things no one should ever have to see. Yet these brave soldiers keep going. They enter into battle and are prepared to face whatever they are called upon to do. For some, in just a flash of time, they gave all. Over 1.3 million Americans have made that ultimate sacrifice. Shakespeare wrote, "We few, we happy few, we band of brothers, for he who sheds his blood with me this day shall be my brother." It was President Ronald Reagan who said it this way: they gave up two lives for their country, the one they were living and the one they would live. When they died, they gave up their chance to be husbands, fathers, and grandfathers, and their chance to be revered old men. They gave up everything for our country, for us. We owe them a debt we could never repay. All we can do is remember. The first national observance of Memorial Day occurred on May 30th, 1868, originally called Decoration Day, when Americans took time to decorate the graves of soldiers who gave their lives in the Civil War. During those years, folks would go to Arlington Cemetery and they would have picnics and place flowers on the graves of the soldiers killed in the Civil War. Today's national holiday of Memorial Day honors all American soldiers who died in defense of the nation. While several towns claim to be the site of the first Memorial Day celebration, one man, John A. Logan, deserves much of the credit for the establishment of Memorial Day as a national holiday. President Reagan defined this day when he said that today we pay solemn tribute to our fallen countrymen. We know we can never give them as much as they gave us, but we also know that our generation and succeeding generations can keep the flame of freedom burning brightly and ensure that they did not die in vain. So how do we honor those who died for our country? I submit to you 3 suggestions how we can honor those who have died for our country. Number 1, remember the sacrifice. Remember the sacrifice made for each of us that our values, freedoms, and peace may endure. Number 2, pray for peace. General Douglas MacArthur said, "The soldier above all others prays for peace, for it is the soldier who must suffer and bear the deepest wounds and scars of war." Number 3, live the principles, the values that made this nation great and drove our soldiers into battle, shed their young blood, and died for our nation. And I call upon all Americans to never forfeit the values that made this nation great. Never forfeit your liberty. On June 6, 1944, American troops had landed on French soil. President Roosevelt spoke on live radio that night. And as he did, he led the nation in prayer. And here's what he said when he prayed. "They fight not for the lust of conquest. They fight to end conquest. They fight to liberate. They fight to let justice arise and tolerance and goodwill among all people. They yearned but for the end of battle, for their return to the haven of home. In 1917, a barber by the name of Martin Treptow from the small town of Cherokee, Iowa, enlisted in the Army. By December of 1917, his regiment was sent to France to fight in the trenches of the Western Front. In July of 1918, a message needed to be delivered during an intense battle against the Germans. Treptow took the message and delivered it to his platoon leader. Exposing himself to enemy fire, he was killed by a German machine gun. After being killed, his diary was discovered as they went through his personal belongings. As a New Year's resolution, Treptow had written in his diary these words: "America must win this war. Therefore, I will work. I will save. I will sacrifice. I will endure. I will fight cheerfully and do my utmost, as if the issue of the whole struggle depended on me alone." Today we honor the memory of men and women who have given their life for a grateful nation. We remember not only how they died, but how they lived. And today we renew our promise that we will never forget. These Americans brought honor to themselves, and they brought honor to us all. May God bless each of our families, and may God bless America.